It's a somber day for members of the Fulton County Sheriff's Office. Authorities say someone shot and killed a deputy and her brother at a house in Newton County Wednesday night. Fox 5's Deidre Dukes joins us live from Newton County with more on the impact this beloved deputy had on many lives. Deidre.
The Newton County Sheriff's Office confirming for us this afternoon that they are investigating this as a possible domestic incident. They tell me they are still interviewing witnesses and have not named a suspect at this time. Now, the shooting claimed the lives of Fulton County Sheriff's Deputy Shakima Brown Jackson and her brother Levoy Brown. They were killed at Jackson's Covington home at around 10:30 Wednesday night.
October 27th, 2021, 10:30 p.m., Windcrest Drive, Covington, Georgia. Newton County deputies race to a home after reports of gunshots. When they arrive, the front door is open. Inside, they find two bodies lying in pools of blood, a young woman and a man. Both have been shot multiple times. A 17-month-old baby sits nearby, crying but unharmed. And standing in the living room, calm and quiet, is the husband. He doesn't run. He doesn't resist. He just waits. The woman on the floor isn't just anyone. She's Deputy Shakima Brown Jackson, a sworn officer of the law. The man beside her is her brother, Levoy Brown. What could push a husband to murder his own wife and her brother in their own home? The answer involves secret children, hidden affairs, and a double life that was about to be exposed. But the question is, how far was he willing to go to keep it all buried? Before we get into the full story of what happened that night, I want to hear from you. Have you ever known someone who was living a double life? What do you think pushes a person to commit murder just to keep their secrets hidden? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you're new here, welcome. On this channel, we cover true crime cases with respect and honesty, always remembering the victims and their families. If that's something you're interested in, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a case. Now, let's talk about who Deputy Shakima Brown Jackson really was. Shakima Brown Jackson was only 28 years old when she died. But in those 28 years, she had already built a life full of purpose, kindness, and dedication. She wasn't born into law enforcement. She worked her way into it. In 2018, Shakima joined the Fulton County Sheriff's Office as a detention officer. It wasn't an easy job. Detention officers work directly with inmates, people who are often angry, frustrated, and sometimes violent. But Shakima handled it with grace. Her co-workers described her as bubbly. She had this energy that could light up a room. Even on the hardest days, she showed up with a smile. And here's the thing that really stood out. No matter how rude or disrespectful an inmate was to her, Shakima always greeted them the same way. Good morning. Every single day. Good morning. It might sound small, but it wasn't. That simple act of kindness earned her respect. Inmates who cursed at other officers would calm down around her. She didn't demand respect. She earned it by treating people like human beings, even when they didn't deserve it. Shakima was eager to learn. She wanted to grow in her career. She studied hard, trained harder, and in September 2021, just over a month before her death, she was promoted to deputy sheriff. It was a huge accomplishment. She was proud. Her family was proud. Her future looked bright. But Shakima wasn't just a deputy. She was also a mother. She had a 17-month-old child at home, a baby who was just starting to walk, just starting to say a few words. Shakima balanced her demanding job with being a mom, and those who knew her said she did both with love and commitment. She spent her days protecting others. She wore a badge. She took an oath. She was trained to handle danger, to stay calm under pressure, to keep people safe. But at home, she couldn't protect herself. Shakima's brother, Levoy Brown, was 30 years old. He lived in Covington, not far from his sister. The two were close. Lavoy was protective of Shakima, the way older brothers often are. He cared about her. He wanted to make sure she was okay. And on the night of October 27th, 2021, Lavoy was at his sister's house. No one knows exactly why he was there that night. Maybe he was visiting. Maybe he was checking in on her. Maybe he sensed something was wrong. Whatever the reason, Lavoy Brown was there when the worst happened, and he would never leave that house alive. Shakima was married to a man named Jaquavia Jackson. He was 28 years old, the same age as her. He was the father of her child. He was the man she came home to every night after long shifts at the sheriff's office. He was the man she trusted. From the outside, they looked like a normal young family. They had a home together on Windcrest Drive in Covington, Georgia. They had a baby. Shakima was building her career. Jaquavia was there, playing the role of husband and father. But behind closed doors, things were very different. Jaquavia Jackson was living a double life. He was involved with other women. He was having affairs. And it wasn't just about cheating. He had fathered children with these other women. Secret children. Children that Shakima didn't know about. He was lying to her, constantly, about where he was going, about who he was with, about money, about everything. This kind of behavior isn't just cheating. It's control. It's manipulation. When someone lies to you over and over, they're not just hiding the truth. They're controlling your reality. They're making you doubt yourself. They're keeping you trapped in a version of life that isn't real. And Jaquavia had been doing this for a long time. But by October 2021, the walls were starting to close in on him. Shakima was starting to figure it out. She was asking questions. She was noticing things that didn't add up. And her brother Lavoy was helping her. The two of them were getting closer and closer to the full truth. Prosecutors would later say that Jaquavia Jackson didn't want his law enforcement wife to discover the extent of his lying and cheating. He didn't want her to find out about the secret children. He didn't want to face the consequences, financially, emotionally, or legally. And that's when things became dangerous. In domestic violence cases, the most dangerous moment isn't always when the abuse is happening. It's when the victim is about to leave. It's when they're about to expose the abuser. It's when the abuser realizes they're losing control. For Jaquavia Jackson, that moment had arrived. Shakima was a trained law enforcement officer. She knew how to gather evidence. She knew how to ask the right questions. She knew how the system worked. And if she found out the full truth, she could take everything from him, his reputation, his money, his access to his child. So Jaquavia made a choice. He decided that the only way to keep his secrets buried was to bury the people who were about to expose them. And on the night of October 27th, 2021, that's exactly what he tried to do. October 27th, 2021. Windcrest Drive, Covington, Georgia. 10:30 p.m. The neighborhood is quiet. Most people are winding down for the night. Lights are off in nearby homes. It's a Wednesday evening. Nothing special, nothing out of the ordinary. Inside the Jackson home, Lavoy Brown is there with his sister. We don't know exactly why he came over that night. Maybe he was just visiting. Maybe Shakima had called him because she needed support. Maybe he could sense that something was wrong and wanted to be there for her. Their 17-month-old baby is asleep in another room, unaware of what's about to happen. And then, gunshots. Multiple gunshots tear through the quiet night. Neighbors hear them. Some freeze. Some grab their phones and call 911. Newton County deputies are dispatched immediately. They speed toward Windcrest Drive, not knowing what they're about to walk into. When they arrive, the front door is open. The house is still. Too still. They step inside and find two people on the floor. Both have been shot multiple times. Blood is everywhere. One of the victims is a woman, Deputy Shakima Brown Jackson. She's wearing civilian clothes. She's off duty. She's in her own home. And now she's dead. The other victim is a man, Lavoy Brown, her brother. He's 30 years old. He came to his sister's house that night, and now he's lying next to her, also dead. The toddler is found in another room, crying but physically unharmed. The child is too young to understand what just happened, too young to know that their mother is gone. And standing in the living room, calm and quiet, is Jaquavia Jackson. He doesn't try to run. He doesn't try to fight. He doesn't try to explain. He just stands there. Deputies detain him immediately. They secure the scene. They call for investigators. They try to process what they're seeing. A fellow officer, killed in her own home by her own husband. This wasn't a random act of violence. This wasn't a break-in. This wasn't a stranger. This was a deputy sheriff, someone who spent her days protecting others, killed by the man she trusted most. This was a brother, someone who loved his sister and wanted to keep her safe, killed because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. This was a child, left without a mother, without an uncle, with a father who would soon be behind bars. The next day, October 28th, around 5 p.m., Jaquavia Jackson was formally arrested. He was charged with 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault, 2 counts of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. He was taken to the Newton County Detention Center and held without bond. Newton County Sheriff's Office spokesperson Caitlin Jett confirmed the charges. Sheriff Ezel Brown released a statement sending condolences to the victims' families and to Fulton County Sheriff Pat Labatt and his staff. The investigation was just beginning, but one thing was already clear. Jaquavia Jackson had killed his wife and her brother, and now he would have to face the consequences. This case is as heartbreaking as it is infuriating. A young mother, a dedicated deputy, and her protective brother, all gone because one man couldn't face the consequences of his lies. What do you think should happen to someone who commits a crime like this? Should there be harsher penalties for domestic violence murders? Let me know in the comments. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. And if you're finding value in this story, please hit that like button. It helps this case reach more people, and it helps keep the memory of Shakima and Lavoy alive. Now, let's talk about how law enforcement and the community reacted to this tragedy. The news of Shakima's death hit the Fulton County Sheriff's Office hard. Sheriff Pat Labatt released a statement calling her death a heartbreaking loss. He said it was a hard time for the Sheriff's Office and asked the community for prayers. Shakima had only been a deputy for a little over a month, but she had been with the agency since 2018. Her co-workers knew her well. They remembered her positivity, her kindness, and her professionalism. They remembered how she treated everyone with respect, even when it wasn't returned. The Fulton County Sheriff's Office immediately provided peer support and chaplain services to staff members. Losing a colleague is never easy, but losing one this way, murdered by her own husband, made it even harder to process. Newton County Sheriff Ezel Brown also released a statement, sending condolences to the victims' families and to Sheriff Labatt and his staff. The 2 agencies came together in grief, supporting each other through the tragedy. The broader law enforcement community mourned as well. Officers from across Georgia and beyond expressed their sorrow on social media. They posted tributes. They shared memories. They reminded each other that even those who wear the badge are not immune to violence at home. And that's the painful irony of this case. Shakima Brown Jackson was trained to handle dangerous situations. She knew how to de-escalate conflict. She knew how to protect herself and others. But when the danger came from inside her own home, from the man she trusted, none of that training could save her. She was off duty. She was at home. She should have been safe. The investigation was led by investigator Joshua Hicks of the Newton County Sheriff's Office. The agency asked the community for any information that could help with the case. Anyone with tips was encouraged to call or email. But the case was already clear. Jaquavia Jackson had been at the scene. He had been detained, and soon he would face trial. The case moved through the court system, and eventually, Jaquavia Jackson stood trial for the murders of his wife and her brother. By the time the trial took place, Jaquavia was 30 years old. He sat in the courtroom as prosecutors laid out the evidence against him. They presented witness testimony. They showed the timeline of events. They explained the motive, his fear of being exposed for his lies, his affairs, and his secret children. The jury listened. They reviewed the facts. And when it came time to deliver their verdict, they didn't hesitate. Jaquavia Jackson was found guilty on all counts. 2 counts of malice murder, 2 counts of felony murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault, 2 counts of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. Newton County District Attorney Randy McGinley released a statement after the verdict. He said, "A daughter and a son were taken from a family in one horrific, premeditated incident." Premeditated. That word is important. This wasn't a sudden argument that got out of hand. This wasn't a moment of rage. Prosecutors proved that Jaquavia Jackson planned this. He knew what he was doing. He knew that Shakima and Lavoy were getting close to the truth, and he decided to stop them permanently. It was an ambush, and after the murders, he stayed at the scene, likely hoping to frame it as something else. A break-in, maybe, or an accident. But it didn't work. The evidence was too clear. The jury's verdict confirmed what investigators had believed from the start. This was a cold, planned attack. Jaquavia Jackson now faces life in prison. He will spend the rest of his days behind bars, paying for the lives he took. But no sentence can bring Shakima and Lavoy back. No verdict can undo the pain their family has endured. Justice was served. But the loss remains. This case is tragic. But it's also a reminder that domestic violence can happen to anyone, even people who seem strong, even people who are trained to handle danger, even people who wear a badge. So let's talk about how we can prevent cases like this from happening again. First, we need to understand the warning signs. The most dangerous time in an abusive relationship is often when the victim is about to leave, confront their abuser, or expose their secrets. That's when abusers feel like they're losing control. That's when they become desperate. In this case, Shakima and Lavoy were getting close to the truth about Jaquavia's lies and secret children. And that's when he decided to act. If you or someone you know is in a relationship where a partner is hiding major things, secret relationships, hidden money, other families, that's not just dishonesty. That's control. And it can be dangerous. Second, firearms make domestic violence deadlier. When an abuser has access to a gun, the risk of death goes up dramatically. In many states, there are laws that allow courts to temporarily remove firearms from people who pose a danger to themselves or others. These are sometimes called risk protection orders. If you are in a dangerous situation and your partner has access to guns, talk to a lawyer or advocate about your options. Third, family members who try to help can also be at risk. Lavoy Brown was at his sister's house that night. He may have been there to support her. He may have been helping her uncover the truth. But his presence made him a target too. If you're trying to help a loved one leave an abusive relationship, don't go alone. Reach out to professionals, domestic violence advocates, law enforcement, or counselors who are trained to handle these situations safely. Fourth, even law enforcement officers are not immune. Shakima was a deputy sheriff. She had training. She knew the system, but she was still a victim. This shows that abuse doesn't care about your job, your strength, or your knowledge. Agencies need to provide confidential support for officers who are experiencing abuse at home. And officers need to know that asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of courage. Fifth, deceit and double lives are forms of control. Jaquavia's affairs and secret children weren't just bad behavior. They were part of a pattern of manipulation. When someone lies to you constantly, they're controlling your reality. They're keeping you trapped. If your partner is living a double life, that's a major red flag. Finally, safety planning saves lives. If you're in an abusive relationship, don't wait until things get worse. Reach out for help now. Talk to a domestic violence advocate. Create a safety plan. Know where you'll go, what you'll take, who you can trust. Document threats and abuse if it's safe to do so. And involve law enforcement early if there are weapons or threats of violence. Here's an important number to remember. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-77233. They're available 24/7. They can connect you with local shelters, legal aid, and safety planning resources. Leaving is the most dangerous moment. But with planning and support, it can also be the moment that saves your life. Deputy Shakima Brown Jackson and her brother, Lavoy Brown, were taken far too soon. They were victims of a premeditated act of violence by someone who should have protected them. Their lives mattered. Their story matters. And by sharing it, we honor their memory and hopefully prevent future tragedies. I want to hear from you one more time. What state or country are you watching from? Have cases like this impacted your community? Let's keep the conversation going in the comments below. If this story moved you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Awareness saves lives. The more people who understand the warning signs of domestic violence, the more lives we can protect. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a case. This channel is dedicated to telling true crime stories with respect, depth, and honesty, always remembering the victims and their families. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And thank you for helping keep these stories alive. Rest in peace, Shakima and Lavoy. You will not be forgotten.